Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Tim Gillette back here with another episode of the Tim Gillette Show. We're back for another season, and we are talking to business and entrepreneur leaders in this season, and we're gonna still get to know who they are, check them out, find out some interesting stuff about them, but we're also going to ask them about what they do to help people in hard times. Because let's face it, we've all had some hard times. Today's guest is no different. This person has had more hard times from reading their bio than I can imagine, and yet they are still out there helping people. Olivia is someone that basically connected to me through someone else on the web and said, "Hey, I want to be on your show." And when I read her bio and read her information, I'm like, "Wow, this girl has been through a thing or two in her past, and she's still out there helping people." So let's bring Olivia on today and get to know her. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, Tim. Hello, everyone. So great to be here.
It's cool to have you on our show. So tell me, well, first of all, tell me, where do you live? What part of the country do you live in?
Right now, I'm in the greater Los Angeles area, kind of near the beach. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I'm from the East Coast, which I think many
I
of us
did notice that you were from the East Coast because
Mhm.
you read in your bio, it said you were born in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
That's right. I have a legal addiction to chocolate.
I like that too. So I was born in Scranton.
Oh my gosh, just close by.
Literally hours from each other.
It's a beautiful state. It really is. I miss the trees.
It is. I love the fall when the colors change is beautiful. That's the point that I love Pennsylvania the most. So,
and you're up near Ricketts Glen, which is one of my favorite places on the planet.
So, you know what I mean? The thing is about, you know what I mean? Hershey, and where I grew up around Scranton area, there was an old park known as, because I remember going to Hershey Park as a kid.
Yeah.
And that was the big one to go to.
Yeah.
In the Northeast, we had what was called, Ghost Town or Rocky Glen.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember Rocky Glen?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever went there, but I remember hearing about it.
My mom could tell you more about Rocky Glen because, like, when in her childhood, Rocky Glen was this huge thing back then. As I became like my teen years, Rocky Glen was on its downward turn when they closed. But yeah, Hershey Park was the next best thing. I remember going to Hershey a lot as a kid. So,
yeah, it's great.
So you're out in California now, all right? You've been through a time or two in your life, starting young, all right? You're like not like, okay, I just got a bad week last week. Like this started with you at a young age.
Yeah. Do you want me to expand on that a little?
Please expand on that because, like, I want my listeners to, when they hear this story, first of all, I hope they don't tear up as much as I do. But anyway,
thank you.
It's still joyful now. Yeah,
I can look at all of it and see how it shaped who I am. So I had a fairly decent life till I was 5, and then my father died in a plane crash, very suddenly, obviously, and I really kind of lost both parents at that time. So, because my mother went into a grief and she was working all the time. So, my sisters and brother and I were really on our own a lot. So it was very hard. And I didn't really deal with the grief of that loss until I was in my 40s. Many of us in midlife then start having issues related to early trauma. And that was when I kind of went through my dark night of the soul. And I look back, so my mother became a very strong businesswoman as a result of having to provide for us. So I never had any doubt that I was an equal in the business world. It was just, I was wondering why people were fighting for women's rights because I never experienced that discrimination or anything. It just wasn't in my psyche, so that was one of the gifts. Obviously, that was also a lot of tragedy, and I had to work through a lot of abandonment issues. And then when I was 20, I was in a car accident that I spent a year in the hospital.
Wow.
I came out with a leg length discrepancy, which I didn't really share in my bio, but I dealt with that for 44 years where my leg was an inch longer from this car accident. And so now and having the accident, lots of other injuries with that, it got me into alternative medicine in my early 20s. So I was eating organic food and drinking bottled water and really doing body cleansing and things in my 20s and 30s. And now I'm within a year of turning 70, and I feel like better than I did when I was 25. And I don't have any pain, and I swear it's because of that tragedy. So, and then when I got into the business world, working, as a data scientist, that was kind of the next step that, kind of came out of being on my own a lot and having to just provide. So, yeah.
So, I mean, see, you lost, I mean, basically, you lost your mother, you lost your father as a child, but then you lose your mother, like just in early adulthood. And that's like, the time where you want, okay, Mom, how do I handle this? And she's no longer there, especially after being in an accident. And how did you find someone to reach out to go, hey, I need a guide. I need someone to be my mentor in life now.
I didn't. And I did forget to mention, obviously, that a year after my car accident, my mother died from cancer. So I was kind of lost because everybody all my siblings were in the same kind of trauma, and there weren't really any relatives that took us under our wing. They kind of tried to be helpful, but I didn't really have anyone to turn to. I've never had a mentor, to be honest, until just recently for business. And I realize how important it is. But, I had to figure out a lot on my own. And I think what that gave me was really good critical thinking skills, because when we're young and our environment changes, I think we learn to read people to be safe, and we learn to read the environment to be safe. So in a way, it really helped me, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone to just have to figure it all out on our own. But it does make me a survivor for sure. Yeah.
Well, I noticed, first of all, you were in the accident. All right. You lost your mom to cancer. Was that like a driving thing that got you into holistic, health and taking care of yourself the way you do now?
So funny, I was in college and smoking was kind of cool. And I remember starting to smoke cigarettes. And then when I got a call from my sister saying, Mom's in the hospital, I must have known intuitively, but I didn't know why. And so I came home and I said to myself, I'm not going to smoke another cigarette until she's out of the hospital. And then she died 2 weeks later, and I never touched one again. But it was really the car accident. I was in traction for 3. So I woke up as a 19-year-old, and I was in this. Back then, they didn't do surgery off. The femur was high risk of infection, so they put me in traction, where they just like put all these weights on my leg to straighten it. And so I woke up in this contraption. I'd been in a coma for a week, and I had ruptured my spleen, and I was in all this pain. And they said, well, you're going to be here for 3 months. And that just sounded like eternity to a 19-year-old, right? So I got through the 3 months somehow. And then I was ready to go home, and I was in a wheelchair. So I'd gotten out of traction after 3 months, and I was in a wheelchair going to physical therapy. And the wheelchair, I had lost so much weight, and they had all these pillows at the end under my foot, and the weight of it tipped the wheelchair over, and I broke my leg again. So they put me back in traction for 6 weeks, and I just said, I can't stay. So they put me in a body cast for 2 months, and I went home in that, and then back into the hospital afterwards. But what really happened was they had me on all these drugs and antibiotics and laxatives. And so when I got back into like normal life, and I was another year on crutches, when I got back kind of trying to be normal, my whole system was a mess. And it wasn't until I met a woman. Now I was 24, and this woman was 60, and she looked amazing. And I asked her for some advice. And so she gave me some advice, and she told me to go to the health food store and get a few things. And I did. And that started to take care of my digestion. And then I just got intrigued. I got a free book called Feel Like a Million by Adele Davis. And I started reading about nutritional supplements, and it was just this whole fascinating world. And so I really dove in, and I started taking all these vitamins, but I was still not cleaning up my diet. And then after a while, I realized, oh, I have to start eating better as well. Yeah, so it's sort of this slow process, which took me where I am now.
Well, I mean, and you know what I mean? Yeah, it was a slow process. I get that. You know what I mean? You say you're doing great. You feel greater now than you ever did. But I mean, you know, a lot of things, like people right now, they're going through tragedies of losing jobs, all right, losing a world that they had because of this pandemic. But let's relate that back to you being 19 years old going, oh my God, 3 months is forever. And some people right now are going, 14 days is forever. What would you tell them?
Well, what I recommend is that people try to search within themselves. So I take every tragedy or inconvenience or something I don't like as a way to say, okay, what's mine to do, and what can I learn from it, basically, and maybe take that learning to serve others. And I have a whole study of 2 years ago, I got into the global politics. So I actually believe that what we're going through is going to end up being so good, and many people don't even know half of what's going on. And so I'm actually kind of excited about it. Now I have the luxury of not having my income disrupted because of it. And I do feel a lot of empathy for those people. And I'm even in dialogue with people like that have a restaurant they can't open. So, you know, do a GoFundMe, get your patrons to maybe help out. I think what we can find is one of the things I've had to learn, being this kind of single warrior, and I was married for many years as well and have 3 kids, but I was always the kind of the strong one. And I think one of the things that we can all learn from this experience is how to ask for help and connect with people that in different ways that maybe we're more vulnerable, and also ask how we can help others. And I do think that things are happening to try to alleviate the financial burden as much as possible, and that it's just going to get better. So I'm very hopeful, and I know it's hard for people. And so again, back to the beginning, is just see if you can tune into almost like I think of your higher self or your soul knowledge, and is there anything there that can guide us through this?
Well, I mean, Nazim says, hey, I have a same feeling, Olivia. Positive will come out of this. So it's my good buddy Nazim over in Italy. I don't know if you know him. But your journey took you through the corporate world for a while. What did you do in the corporate world, and when did that get started?
Well, I was sort of, as I shared this, I was very lost in my 20s. And as a kid, I was ADD. I was really creative, and I couldn't read because I just couldn't control my scattered thoughts, like very just creative thoughts. So I studied math. And so I ended up and it was just, you know, I went to college like it was expected, and I couldn't read at that point very well. I mean, I could read short things, but I couldn't track long things. So anyway, so I studied math. And then I got married, had kids. And then I decided in my late 30s that I wanted to just get back and do something with my life. I'd done some healing work. And I thought I wanted to become a psychologist because I'd studied so much of that subject. But a friend of mine said, well, you know, you should probably just use your math skills. You'll have a much better chance of getting a job. And so at that point, my husband was having health problems. And I thought, yeah, I should do the responsible thing, take care of my family. So I ended up going and getting a master's in statistics and got recruited by a credit card bank. And I really thought I had landed on a foreign planet because I'd been this kind of earth mom and spiritual seeker. And now I'm in this fear-based culture. But my work was really powerful. I was saving them millions of dollars by being able to target their clients better. And and at the same time, I was pretty terrified as well. So I had to grow myself a lot. But what I learned through it, which has really created the foundation for my current work, is that fear-based cultures just don't work. And I think it's even more true now because of the complexity we're in as a global economy, how things are changing so quickly. And so companies need to treat their people well. The human element of business is becoming much more valuable. And if customers or leaders don't treat their employees with, I say, with love, caring and compassion, they're not going to be able to compete. Yeah. So that's been my latest. I feel like I finally figured out what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm moving into that now, helping companies bring a culture of love into business.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I did notice. I mean, that you've written several books. All right, and I'm looking at your website up here now. So one of your first books was based on your process. Was it Love at Work? Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's actually my fourth book.
Oh, fourth book. Okay. I thought that was first. The way it's in order, it's rearranged differently that I misinterpreted it. My fault.
Oh, I think I have my most recent.
My bad.
It's fine. I should think about that actually on my website. So yeah, so back in 2001, my first book was Data Mining Cookbook, and that kind of threw me on an international stage because it was the first book on data science, really, that was a how-to. And then I wrote another book, a more academic book on how to bring love into business, but from a science perspective. And then I was guided to write Love at Work 2 years ago, which was really almost coming out of the closet, because I had this reputation as a left brain data science expert. And I thought, wow, if I start using the word love, are they going to minimize me? So I feel like my left brain books gave me the credibility that I could launch this program about bringing love into business. And as I was writing it, I ended up sort of sharing my own journey about how I had to learn to love myself and heal my abandonment issues. And I'm still working on it to make, to be successful and really bring my gifts out. So now I love working with other people who are maybe finished with their career or looking for something where makes their heart sing, and get them, help them find their new passion maybe later in life. I call it pro-tirement, which is retirement with purpose.
Well, I noticed you did say that, you discovered a lot more in your 40s. I personally, that was a huge waking up for me in my 40s. Yeah, I had great things happening before that, but I was a young dumb kid who couldn't make it successful. In other words, it looked good on paper, but really it wasn't peaceful. It wasn't, you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of love into what I did. So now you talk about helping people later in life. You know what I mean? Do you find that it's like the 40s and 50s that some of us go, oh crap, what I was doing up until now was just like the wake up call to what I need to be doing?
Absolutely. And I think we can be so motivated by a goal, and it could be making money. Usually it is, or a status in a company. And then when we get there, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't really feel that satisfied. Was there more? And a lot of times I think we as humans, with our compassion, I think we get fed by serving others. And I feel like there's a lot of people now with a lot of knowledge that just end up retiring and could be sharing and really enjoy that, because we collect a lot of wisdom through life that could help others.
Well, when did you write your first book? How old were you when you wrote your first book?
49.
You were 49. Okay. Yeah.
And during that, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, well, I missed that one. Okay. That I'm sure there's a whole other story we can get on there.
I don't know if I have that in my bio, but the reason I bring it up is because it was where I was sort of arrogant. Like, I'll never get cancer. I eat organically. I do everything right. But I didn't factor in the stress. And also I was drinking soy milk, which can be, bad for you if you're prone to that. So any kind of estrogen related cancer. but what it did is it was sort of this wake up call. Like, I better figure out why I'm here and choose to live. Because my mother was the same age when she died. And I went, oh my God, I'm following her footsteps here. I want to choose differently. And that was really a big part of it. So I was sitting in I actually had a great alternative doctor who put me on biweekly vitamin IV. So I was doing that while I went through surgery, chemo, radiation, everything. And I would sit with the vitamin IV in my wrist, and I would type my book. Right, I would be in his office writing my book, my data mining cookbook. So that just had a. I'm sorry, I probably went off on a little bit.
No. This is about you and your story. By all means, there is something to learn in this, and I'm ecstatic about it.
Oh, thanks. And actually, writing that book was terrifying because here I was. I basically taught myself how to read in my early 20s because I just wanted to get over the stigma. And but I never thought of myself as a writer. But actually, that really is one of my passions and gifts. And writing the data mining cookbook, I had a publisher because it was such a hot topic. But now I had deadlines, and oh my gosh, I fought that blank piece of paper, And so I just start writing and think, okay, I'm just going to write whatever comes through until the real stuff comes. And then what I would write, and I read it, and I go, wow, that's not bad. Okay. But still, it was terrifying. And then I finally sent the first chapter to Wiley, and they said, this is great. If you keep sending like this, we'll be happy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this, So it was great. And now I just love to write. And I have all my free ebooks on my website people can download.
Well, I mean, when you got that first book, all right, with everything you've been through in your life, what was the feeling of getting that first book in your hand when the copy's in your hand of accomplishment, knowing you're going to live past this life now?
Yeah.
Tell me about that moment.
Well, it's so interesting. I was just sharing with my roommate yesterday because I always take 9 months to write a book. So that's kind of interesting, right? And so I wrote the book, the Data Mining Cookbook, and I sent it off to the publisher. And I was working for a company in Stamford, Connecticut, a friend of mine who's the CEO, and so I helped her doing marketing. And she had ordered a bunch, but I hadn't seen it yet. So I drove 4 hours because I was living in the Philly area. Got there, and we were sitting in a tea shop, and she had the book box, and she took a book out, and it was like having my baby. Seeing my baby after it had been separated from it was I had this bodily experience. Like, I was almost afraid to look at it because I was afraid I'd find a mistake, or could I really have done this? Like, is this really something I created? I had to almost bond with the book. It was very interesting. Wow. And then I started using it for reference because, I don't keep track of a lot of the stuff. And so over the years, I've actually had to refer to it for different steps that I created for the process that I would do. It's basically about predictive modeling, and that's something they use to create your FICO score and things like that. So that's sort of the essence of the book.
Cool. And it's just, I mean, when you say you love to write, I mean, and then you talk about how the process comes down. I could never figure out how to put the process down. Now I can do a blog and got it down on a daily basis, but getting the book out was a headache.
Yeah.
For me. But you seem to accomplish that. Now, I mean, you're now in Los Angeles. You grew up on the East Coast. When did you make the move to the West Coast?
Well, I've kind of been around before. So when my husband and I first got married, we were living in New Jersey, and he was a skier. So we thought, let's go see what the West is like. So we took a little road trip, and we ended up falling in love with Colorado. So we moved there in '77. And lived there 11 years, and all our kids were born there. And then the economy crashed. It was 86 or 87, I think. And so he took a job in Arizona. We moved there to Phoenix area. And that's where I ended up getting my graduate degree. And then his health started failing, and the company he was working for went under from the Keating savings and loan scandal, if anybody remembers that. And so he said, he wanted to start his own business. Could I get a job? And I was almost done with my degree. And then I got recruited by this bank in San Francisco. So we moved there. So my kids kind of grew up living in the West. So finally, the stress of the job in San Francisco was really, I had an hour and 40-minute commute, and things were just not happening really well at home with my husband's illness. So I took a transfer back to Pennsylvania. I thought, well, it'd be good to get around family again, And so we lived there for 20 years, but over the years, all my kids moved west. Mm. And I thought, okay, I loved Colorado. So I went back to Boulder in 2014. And I was in Boulder for 4 years, and I really loved it. And I have great friends there, but there was just something pulling me farther west. Two of my kids live in the LA area. And I got guidance to go to LA, which I never thought I would like to live here. But I was just guided, like, this is where you're going to meet the people that can help you get your work out. And it's really been true. I have just amazing friends that are working with me. Like I said, I have a mentor now, a woman from India who bridges spirituality and business with these amazing techniques. And so it's all worked out. And I have 2 kids nearby, and I have another son in Salt Lake City with grandkids. So I'm now a Westerner, and I love LA because there's farmers markets, so I can get all my organic food a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I love visiting LA. I live in Dallas, Texas now, and I love visiting LA. I don't know if I'd ever want to live there, except for the fact that, I have a client down in Newport Beach who does rental properties now, and my wife loves the beach. So it's like, that's something, the only that would draw us out there is wanting to stay on the beach, that's about it for me. But in town, I don't know, the traffic and stuff like that. Do you have to deal with that much or no?
No, I don't. I just I rarely get into the center city, maybe twice a year. Yeah, and so I'm near LAX, and everything I need is on the west side, and the air is really good here too. So I like that.
So that's where I visit a lot, LAX area, like that strip of hotels on LAX. I think I've stayed at every one of them and spoken at every one of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like 10 minutes from me. I'm in Redondo Beach.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know. Yeah. I kind of know the area, even though I've never lived there.
Yeah. It's not like Pennsylvania, but it has its palm trees, and it's nice.
I mean, I remember there was one time I stayed there for a whole week, in, I think it was like 2014 or 13. And it was unique for me because basically I think I got a cheap hotel, literally, like right over the line past LAX into, what is it? Inglewood.
Yeah.
Because it was cheap, and I had access to the beach, and I knew everything I was going to do was on the west side. And, I found it to be a unique area, but I'm like, man, I wouldn't want to live here. Every time I had to go someplace that was far out, the traffic I had to deal with, I'm like, nah, I don't want to live here.
Yeah. So since the shutdown, it's been amazing. I haven't really traveled into the city, but my daughter lives over by Pasadena, which is on the other side of downtown. So she can now get here in 30 minutes, where it would take an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 normally. So it's
now I love Pasadena. I was there in February. I spoke at an event in February, and I stayed at the new Hyatt house in Pasadena. And I love Pasadena. I think that is a cute town.
It's great.
But I mean, let's face it. All right. We've been in cute towns. When we talk about Pennsylvania, we've been in cute towns. All right.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Olivia, I mean, you've got quite an interesting journey that you've been on. All right. And there's been a lot of ups and downs to it, but you make it sound like it's all been ups. You know what I mean?
Well, it hasn't been. Obviously, I've had a lot of difficult times, and I think I have, with all the healing work I've done, I really try to look at everything as with a positive perspective. So I have this saying, if I wake up and I'm not in the hospital or no one in my family's died, it's a great day.
Yeah.
And then any minor thing that happens, it's like, this is so minor. I'm not even going to remember this in 6 months, so I don't get triggered by much at all. It's just not worth it. And I feel like I now know what I'm here to do, and I want to put all my energy into that and trivial stuff. And I think less of it happens, because I really think there's this quantum attraction thing where if we focus on negative stuff, we're going to find more of it comes our way. So I try to use that as well.
Yeah, but but Olivia, I do have some listeners, and myself, I've been there as like, I don't always want to be positive. Life has some knockdown moments. What advice would you give to me and the listeners who go, you know what I mean? How to get past those knockdown moments that you just like, I don't want to be positive. I want to be angry. I want to be mean. What advice would you give to us?
Well, I would say, and I've done this, and a lot of times we'll just stuff it. And I say, just be with the feeling. And the best thing is to not think that somebody else can cause it, so that we know we're not a victim. And it's okay to have those feelings, and it's okay to get triggered and even be mean. I just think where we can start to become our own witness and say, okay, is that really what I want to do? And apologize if it's appropriate. I mean, often we're reacting to something that it's really related to probably something else that we're not conscious of, or we're projecting something on other people. So when people say, well, you make me feel this way, I say, I mean, I don't always say this because it's kind of it can seem flippant, but if they really want to know, I'll say, I'm not that powerful. I can't make you feel any way that you don't on some level choose. And then it's up to us to see what it is that is happening to us that's putting us in that state. And then just try to work on it, right? So I have a book on my website called The 5 Levels of Self-Awareness that really can help people engage their witness, which is that voice or that view. Like, have you ever been doing something and I'll be eating something and go, I know I shouldn't be eating this, right? That's my witness saying, you're going to be sorry, right? So it's about getting that working while we're speaking to say, is this something I really want to say? And then stopping ourselves, and then actually not having the tendency to do the things that we want to stop doing, or reacting the way we want. Because if we're constantly triggered by someone, let's say in our life or an event, if we stop reacting the way we are, eventually it'll stop coming to us.
Well, I mean, I like that you said that and you compared it to the food. All right. You know what I mean? I'm a junk food junkie. All right. But I look at what I'm putting in. All right. And I do like also that you mentioned, you know what I mean? Don't become a victim. Take ownership. And I've always said that too. Take ownership of what, you know what I mean? What you've got in there. All right. Yeah. So I don't always feel positive, but I don't think it's my mother's fault. You know what I mean? So many of us want to blame mom, aunt, uncles, Uncle Sam, whoever.
Well, and something else that you said is our diet can really affect our mood. So I'm really careful with what I eat, but if I have something, even if I drink wine in the evening and I'll wake up in the morning and I'll feel negative and I'll go, oh wait, no, that's the wine, and just drink a lot of water and get your system cleaned out. And then I'm back. And they say that, our microbiome, our flora in our colon there's brain cells in there, and 70% of, say, depression can be cured by just getting probiotics in our system and eating foods that are, stopping lots of sugar, which is one of my problems. I mean, I do get that.
You don't want to know my addiction.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
But it's watered. Like, it's 90% water, and I drip it. I like the taste of it, but I can't drink it straight out of the can. It's too sugary. You know what I mean? But I want to use that as an analogy in life. All right. Yeah. I love that. All right. I love my moonshine. But I take it in like little moderations.
Yeah.
And so often I think we get caught up into this. All right. This whole world. All right. Where that negative really wants to drag us down, when we understand, when we put it into that little minor thing in our lives and understand that, hey, I woke up above ground today. All right. I'm not in the hospital. There's so many more positives about it. You know what I mean? And Olivia, my dad, he died at 70 years of age, and it wasn't a year before he died that he had said something. Someone had asked him, and I quoted this in the blog I wrote about him. And he said he only had 2 bad days in his life. Wow. And he named them both. And he said, you know what I mean? One is the day that my Uncle Ralph died, and the other, which was a great close friend to him. And the other one was, when my nephews, his young grandkids were taken away from my younger brother, and his ex-wife just picked up and moved and took his kids away. He said those were the only 2 bad days in his life. And then I went and found out his story, and I'm like, oh my God, all this crap happened to him, and those are the 2 bad things. Like, so often I think it's our perspective of,
Mhm.
what we think is so bad. And the rest of the world's like, that's nothing.
Oh, right. In
Yeah.
fact, when my kids were little, I tried to at least take a trip to a third world country where they could just compare
Mhm.
what we have here to what most of the world or a lot of the world lives with, you know.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is in those countries, a lot of those people are very happy. They don't even know what we have. And
Yeah.
we get caught up in thinking the right car or clothing are going to bring us joy. And actually, it's very temporary. It's really the inner work, I think, that gives us the long-term joy. And
Or,
you asked about when you have a feeling, something like sadness
yeah. Yeah.
or grief, I say, don't stuff it, just go with it, like feel it as much as you can.
Yeah.
And
Now,
then, it'll often just process that way.
process. That's it. I love it. I love it. And I've dealt with my share of depression in life and stuff like that. And I remember being determined to go through it.
Mhm.
And that I see that in you when I read all your information. I'm glad we get to talk today on here, so I get to know you. And
Oh.
it seems like you. I mean, like I said, you've gone through a lot of crap, but you made it all seem uphill. It's like,
Well, I guess I think of it as I wouldn't want to trade where I am now, so it must have all been the right thing,
yeah,
whatever that means,
yeah, yeah. So, the people who are listening in, all right. Some of them are going through tough times, and some of them are I mean, some of them are just this COVID is tough times. What
Mhm.
advice would you want if you could give them one parting word of advice? What would it be to them?
Hmm. I would say look at what's working and what things for which you can be grateful. So say when a friend of mine is complaining, I said, look, you've got a beautiful place to live, you've got access to organic food. Those other things will change, and I think it's mostly fear of the unknown. And so that's where I say go within and know that everything's going to be okay. And maybe that's hard to do. So that's where some practice, some meditation, maybe mindfulness practice,
Mm-hmm.
and know that in the long run, I think we are going to I think our vibration is actually increasing on the planet. That's what one of my belief systems that I've been hearing from spiritual teachers. So we have to go through this kind of rough place, kind of like the butterfly before it becomes a butterfly. It's just a caterpillar, and then it gets into this toxic soup, and it thinks it's dying, but there are these imaginal cells. So maybe that's what I would say is spend this time imagining what you want to create, because that's how it can happen. And a peaceful earth, if we all do that, that's what we'll get, I believe.
Cool. Well, Olivia, what is the place that they can get a hold of you if they want to find out more?
So I would invite you to go to my website. It's www.oliviapr.com. And you can always write to me at olivia@oliviapr.com. Let me know what you think, what you're up to. Feel free to go and download some of my ebooks. Let me know if you're interested in any of those topics.
Cool.
Thanks.
Well, Olivia, I first of all, I thank you for being on the show today, and it's been great getting to know you, and it's great being around people like you who influence us that the world's really not that bad.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, Olivia, you know what I mean? As we close out, I play a game with all of my guests. Have you heard about my game?
Just that you mentioned it before, but I haven't heard anybody play it yet. So this will be fun. I
I love
games.
this because I always find out the ones who have actually listened to my show before they come on, and the ones who are like, I'm going to be shocked when I get here and just go with the flow. So, well, Olivia, I make this game up. It's at the end of my show. It's called This or That, and I put together about 9 questions that are just 2 choices, and you get to pick one of them. Some of this stuff may relate. Some I just want to know about everybody who's on my show, and some of them are fighting words.
All right.
So, excuse me. So I started off with, I like to find out who my geeks are, and I asked the entry question of Star Wars or Star Trek.
Wow. Star Wars.
Star Wars. See, some people are into them and some people aren't. And I'm getting some people go neither. And some people are so adamant about this is the one, you got to ask.
I love them both. But
how about this one here? You're going on vacation. You want to go to the beach or the mountains?
The mountains.
The mountains.
Yeah. Forest. Pennsylvania, right? Eaglesmere.
Yeah. Pennsylvania had mountains. We didn't have beaches. So
that's right. Yeah. Love the trees.
Yep. How about if you're going to sit down and do some learning? Would you listen to a podcast or read a book?
I would listen to. I'm an audio learner. I would listen to a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Well, they could be audio books too. It can be kind of calculated in the podcast, but yeah, that's always one I like to find out.
Well, and if I'm trying to learn steps, I think I prefer a book because sometimes when I'm listening, my mind wanders. So yeah, but I think just if I had to choose, I would say listen.
Cool. Now I'm going to move into a few food subjects.
All right.
How about taco or hamburger?
Oh, wow. If it's grass-fed beef, I prefer a hamburger.
Yeah. I prefer the hamburger, but I've had one person go, well, I'm a vegan. I'm like, I don't know. Vegan tacos are pretty darn good.
Vegan tacos, I guess. I don't eat corn or wheat, so I'm kind of limited. I'm not much into the corn tortilla. I like the flours more, but that is some things that people who I know if they can't eat. And then like my wife, she'll eat the hamburgers on lettuce wraps rather than having a bun. Right.
Yeah. So my next one in the food category is a glass of wine or a beer.
Wine.
Wine, red wine or white wine.
Right now it's white.
White.
Yeah. But I kind of go back and forth.
See, we're big. My wife and I are big Napa people. We're like, we want to get on a plane so bad and go to Napa right now and sit out at our favorite winery on picnic tables and have lunch and drink wine. That's what we want to do.
So beautiful. Soon. We gotta wipe out the government first.
Yes. Soon. We can't wait till that soon comes up. Anyway, she took me to Napa for my 50th birthday party.
Oh, wow.
And literally had all of our friends came in and had it like in a limo when I came down to go do a tour. It was the greatest day that my wife planned for me. I know. And her 50th birthday, we went and her 50th, she went and ran a marathon.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway. My next one here would be, would you rather dress up or wear yoga pants?
Well, that's a kind of a tough question because I can live in yoga pants. So I kind of like to dress up once in a while. So if I had a choice right now, I'd rather dress up.
I was going to say in the COVID area, it's dress up, yoga pants.
Yeah, right.
So my next two here can kind of create wars. Some people really have opinions on this next one.
I can just about guess what it is.
And that is pineapple on pizza. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. I like you.
I figure pizza's for anything you want.
Really. Trust me. My wife loves the everything. I'm like maybe 2 toppings, but I like combinations like that. So yeah. Next one here, another war question, and that is the toilet paper. Does it go over on the roll or under?
Oh, definitely over. There's no question.
That's a war one, as you know.
I've even looked that up because I get so annoyed when I have to dig underneath for it.
No. There was a girl on a couple weeks ago, and she said she was from New England. All right. And she said, well, she's single. And she says, well, I go to a guy's house after dating him. If I change that toilet paper to over after the 3rd time I break up with him, this relationship's going nowhere.
That's fascinating.
As you see, these are fun questions.
That's great.
Yeah. So my last one is I always ask, and that is boxers or briefs?
Well, not being a man, that's a good question too. I would say boxers. Okay.
It wasn't all that bad. So,
well, I was thinking from a comfort point of view, but
yeah. Well, Olivia, once again, tell everybody your website so they can hear it both on the audio version as well as the video version. So,
yeah, it's Olivia, OLIVIA PR for Parr-Rud. So oliviapr.com.
okay. And Olivia, I thank you for being my guest today, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your story. So, to you, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say my pleasure. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. To you, our listeners, we thank you for coming on today. And please go check out Olivia at her website, oliviapr.com. All right. Stop over there. Check out her books. All right. As we put the link up there a little bit ago for some of her books, check out all that stuff about her and get to know her. Reach out to her if she's someone who can help you. I'm Tim Gillette with The Tim Gillette Show. Be sure and subscribe to us on YouTube, on Anchor, and over on Apple Podcasts. I'll be back real soon with another great guest. We'll see you soon, guys. Bye.